So here we have our first character analysis where I'll be discussing moves, trait behavior, strengths, weaknesses, and a general game plan of a particular character. And today we're going to be discussing
Batman.
Since this is my first character analysis, I'll do a quick introduction to the series itself, then we can dive into learning Batman. In this series here I plan to cover all the characters in the game, present and future. My goal is to educate and inform anyone considering adding any specific character to their arsenal. How to go about use of that character, how to play their strengths, how to get the offense started, things like that. On the flip side, for anyone who needs to know how to take advantage of the character's weaknesses, and how to operate against that particular character when facing him or her, these videos should suffice as well. Before anyone gets into this video, I do cover pretty advanced aspects of the character with some advanced terminology, and I suggest that you watch my previous video where I give a thorough rundown of every mechanic in the game and how they all work together in a match. With that being said, let's get into Batman here. Batman in the DC Comics is known for always having a backup plan, always having an answer, and always having a way around every situation imaginable. NetherRealm Studios has succeeded in capturing this personality in a fighting game. Batman is a character that can convert off of any situation into heavy damage and can turn the tide of a match into his favor with his vast arsenal of tools and tech. Batman is one of the most oppressing characters in this game, with his entire playstyle changing the moment his trait is in play. Batman is of the rushdown character archetype. I'd say about 8 parts rushdown, 2 parts space control. Not only is Batman's close quarters pressure on point, he has very strong options and tools for when he goes airborne. Batman is a character who will catch and punish those who are not aware of his frame advantage and disrespect it. He has a very strong evasive mobility, possessing a few strings such as his back 2-3 that allow him to be played in a sort of defensive hit-and-run strategy. He is a very adaptable character and can play defensively as strong as he plays offensively. His trait allows you to pick up tighter punishes, provide safety for normally risky moves, and longer-lasting, heavier damaging combos. Batman's adaptability allows him to take advantage of any opponent's weaknesses, whether by pressure or controlling the neutral, and can turn these weaknesses into 50% combos in the right hands. Let's start by taking a look at each of his normals and strings. Looking at his normals, we see standing 1 is 7 frames. A good punish, has low recovery as well, so you're likely to see some combos that go like this. Leads into 1-1 and 1-2, which are some useful strings, which we'll get into later. Down 1 is 7 frames. Stubby, but quick, a decent poke. Back 1 is a low starter, 9 frames. Leads into a full combo, it's a very good normal right here. Standing 2 is a 10 frame mid, good for canceling into trait, just for a way to start pressure off of the mid. We'll get into that later though. Then we have his forward 2, his most advancing normal, goes about match start distance, also good for canceling into trait. Then we have his forward 3, which covers a little over start distance, pretty good when armored. His jump-ins are very good. His jump 1 is useless though. Jump 2 is better in every single way. Jump 2 has a very horizontal hitbox that makes it good for crossing up, and has decent reach, making it a good air-to-air that's hard to anti-air. Its only downside is the fact that it's a meme, and you'll get name called for using it. Jump 2 also jails into several of the strings that we've mentioned previously, and we'll go into that later as well. Jump 3 is good to use mid-combo, offering more damage than a Jump 2 would normally. And onto his strings, you'll find several of these have almost no pushback, which is perfect for Batman because he can continue his pressure all day long when he gets in. So here we have 1-1, which is plus. You might see him do a throw off of this, or maybe a back 1. 1-1 goes into 1-1-2, which is punishable, but can be cancelled into battering to make it safe. You'll see this one at the end of combos into an up battering for a plus on hit situation. Or you can go with 1-1-3, which is plus 6 on hit. The catch here is that there's a huge gap between the last hit that can be blown up with armor. But if you catch your opponent off guard, that's 6 plus frames you can use for a free jump in or a throw or whatever you want. Then we have 1-2, which is plus 4 on block. You'll see this move a lot when Batman wants to go for another mix-up or jump in or bait you out with his mechanical bats. It goes into 1-2-3, an unsafe combo starter, or 1-2-2, which just looks goofy, and I've never seen that string used once, but it's there. Then we have back 1-1, his low starter, which can be cancelled into trait for another mix-up, or it can be finished with back 1-1-2, which hits overhead at the end, but has a small gap that can be backdashed out of. Or back 1-1-3, which is another unsafe combo starter. Then we have 2-2-3, which is yet another combo starter, which can lead into a restand or a meterless combo that hits about 350 damage. Then we have back 2-3, which hits overhead and rolls Batman away. A few characters can punish this move, but not many. so it's typically your go-to when you want to get out of a bad situation mid-screen. And finally, forward 2-3, which is a full combo if trait is active and only -1 on block. Now we have the special moves. First off, we have one of his main combo starter specials, his grapple gun. Grapple gun is unsafe on block, so if you block it up close, punish him for it. When meter burned, it can be used to follow up with a wall bounce for a full combo. And before the patch, you could do a cheeky restand into a vortex. But after that nerf on his jump 2 move, the vortex is no longer present, and I'll show you lab footage of that here in a moment. Next we have his projectile, the Batarang, which moves him backwards, hits high, and can be meter burned for an area of effect that does big damage on hit and block. The meter burn is also +17 up close, allowing a free dash or jump in for more pressure. The Batarang is also -5 up close, so perfectly acceptable to cancel on block. Then we have his up Batarang, which may or may not be a wake up, we have yet to confirm. Seems to work when Forever King does it. It's not invincible at all, but it does pop up for a combo when meter burned. Both meter burn Batarangs can be used to break armor, for they are both double hitting. In the air, Batman can do his scatter bombs that cover a huge portion of the air, making it a nice air-to-air or means to stay above the ground longer. These scatter bombs can be meter burned and followed up with a 1, which functions like a jump in, or a 3, which is a plus on block elbow drop that does about 100 damage on hit. It all does around 50 damage on block if meter burned into elbow drop. Then we have his slide, which hits low and can be used as a very risky mix-up in the neutral if you catch your opponent walking back. With trait, however, it can lead to a full combo. On block, it's -37, so you can punish this one in your sleep. Careful to use a move that hits mid when punishing this slide though, because Batman's hitbox is very low to the ground. This move also functions as Batman's wake up, fully invincible on startup. He also has a parry, which hits for about 150 damage. 4 startup frames means it comes out pretty quick, and might be able to punish a few gaps if they're pretty wide. And on top of that, he's the only character in the game with a double jump. A double jump that can be cancelled into the scatter bombs, allowing him to stay in the air for a very long time. He can also elbow drop out of his double jump. And finally, we have his super move. Pretty slow to start up, and is just as punishable on block as the slide. You'll never see this thrown out too often. And its animation is okay, I'd give it about a 5 out of 10. Nothing crazy going on compared to the other super moves. Now we're entering the more overpowered side of Batman. We have his trait. His trait, the mechanical bats, have several uses, which I'll cover in just a moment. Note that they start up in 1 frame and can be released at any moment by Batman, even if he's in the middle of a string. Each of his bats take 12 seconds to charge up, and when he has all 3 bats, he's granted a unique move that functions as a parry, launching the opponent for a full combo. Bats go away on hit, but persist on block and last for an infinite amount of time. Once his bats are summoned though, he can use them for a variety of things. Because the bats have 42 frames of hit stun, Batman can convert off of a stray hit from full screen if he wanted to, so naturally people fear these things in the neutral. Batman no longer has to play the neutral when his mechanical bats are active, because Batman can whiff punish any move at the push of a button if timed properly, leading to a full combo. Batman essentially gets to walk in for free, with a few exceptions here and there. He can use these bats to cover himself no matter how negative he is on block. An attempt to punish his slide when bats are out will likely lead to you yourself being punished. All he has to do is let the bats out when you go to punish him, then he gets a full combo. If he sees you trying to interrupt the gap on his 1-1-3 string, for instance, he can release the bats during the gap, which will break your armor and can lead into a full combo. He can also cancel into his trait, which has 1 frame of startup, as I said before, off of a few of his strings. Back 1-1 trait is what you'll see a lot. He'll usually try a back 1, a throw, or a jump in after that. Some of the downsides to his trait, they don't have a lot of deviation in the direction they travel. Once they find their target, they will travel relatively straight. So they can whiff sometimes if the opponent evades. And they go away when push blocked. And the recent nerf has made their cooldown 12 seconds down from 9, making them far less often for use in the match. The bats also have very little block stun, so you can move almost immediately after blocking them. With that in mind, let's take a look at his strengths and weaknesses so we can have an idea on how to play as him or how to defend against him. Batman has quite a few strengths. He has good plus frame pressure, good ways to escape from pressure, and good mobility around the screen. With trait, he becomes the best character in the game, no doubt. With trait out, Batman is a monster up close, forcing you to hold all of his pressure, no matter how negative, for fear of being hit by the trait. Your only hope is to down one between his pressure and hope he's too busy mashing buttons to block it. In the air, he doesn't quite dominate, but against a character who has no aerial options, he can be quite oppressive. He can change his jump arc at will, and force to respect a +6 overhead from the air. Batman's projectiles are rustic, but get the job done, and can establish a no-fly zone quickly after getting a few anti-air batarangs that lead to full combos. He also has good potential at closing out a round with the chip damage off of his meter burn batarangs. Batman is limited on weaknesses, but some are glaringly obvious. Without trait, Batman's neutral game is one of the worst, and he can be bullied by characters with long-range normals. So you'll see a lot of Batmans do this, to buy time for their trait to come back. For the most part, Batman's pressure has a few gaps when the trait is not present that can be taken advantage of. His mix-up game up close is not based entirely on the overhead low, of which he only has a few, meaning when he's up close, it's not a constant overhead or low guessing game. So what do his matchups look like? Who beats Batman and who does Batman beat? I am not a Batman main, and I'm doing my best to look at all these matchups objectively. Obviously, my evaluations are open to debate. It's best that we start with who Batman loses to. Supergirl beats Batman. Her laser projectiles really slow Batman's game down, and his mechanical bats have a hard time reaching her in the air. Her neutral game on the ground beats Batman's, meaning that without trait he has to respect her. She can also punish Batman's back 2-3 with an instant air laser. Green Arrow beats Batman. No matter where on the screen he is, Batman will consistently have to deal with fire arrow after fire arrow. Green Arrow can release an arrow and block any incoming mechanical bats in time, and his Savage Blast move will take him away from Batman's pressure when he tries to go in. Aquaman beats Batman. All of Batman's combo starters are on the ground, meaning Aquaman can trait out of them. Aquaman also has a check from full screen and can slow down Batman's approach, only for Batman to be met with forward 1 or back 1 when he finally gets in, both of which lead to good chip damage off of the meter burn Trident Rush. Aquaman is also equipped with a very good down 2, shutting down Batman's air game. Poison Ivy beats Batman. Poison Ivy will outspace Batman in the neutral and has high mobility similar to Supergirl. Her full screen check keeps Batman from running away when his trait is not active, allowing her to move in for some good mix-ups. On the other hand, Batman crushes a number of other characters. Sub-Zero loses to Batman. Ice Clone means absolutely nothing to mechanical bats, and Sub-Zero's neutral is not much better than Batman's. Darkseid loses to Batman. Omega Beams are a free punish to mechanical bats, and Darkseid's neutral is just as bad as Batman's. A 6-frame down 2 will shut Darkseid out of a lot of teleport setups as well. Robin loses to Batman. Robin's pressure is riddled with gaps that Batman can exploit with his trait. Robin also doesn't have a quick means of getting in on Batman when mechanical bats are gone. Bane loses to Batman. Bane's armor is shredded by mechanical bats, and Batman's neutral is surprisingly better than Bane's. Now, of course, these are all just conclusions that I've come to, and I doubt that I've covered every winning and losing matchup that Batman has, but those are some examples. Leave in the comments section some of the matchups that you think Batman wins or loses, and we can talk about it. Now we're going to cover exactly how to use Batman. As the Caped Crusader, you're going to do a lot of mixing. You want to have your hands on your opponent as much as possible for as long as possible, and you can achieve this through several means. 2 words. Plus frames. We've all seen those 30-second episodes of Forever King wailing on his opponent while they just sit and block every last method of pressure, because Batman has layers upon layers of staggers and plus frames. So let's just take this step by step. You finally make it into footsie range with active bats. You can assert your plus frames with 1-2. From there, you can do a throw, a back 1, a forward 3, a bat release into jump 2, make sure to time the bat to stuff any anti-airs if they catch on, and from jump 2 you can start again with 1-2 or just about anything, rinse and repeat. If you jump in with jump 2, that jails into several strings. You can follow up into 1-2 for plus frames, but 1-2 starts high so they can just poke out of it on a read, which is why you mix up your jump 2 with back 1 or back 2-3 into bat release for a free dash in. You can start with forward 2-3, which is -1. If they get ballsy and try to press buttons afterwards, just release your bats and full combo them. You can release the bat and go in for a forward 3, or go in for a raw forward 3 for plus frames. Release the bat if they try to exploit the gap, and start with 1-2 or jump 2 or anything else. Or you can end it back 1-1-2 and release the bat if they try to poke afterwards. You can do 1-1, releasing the bat if they try to exploit the gap, or end it in 1-1-3 for plus frames. And finally, you can do back 2-3, and release the bat after the detonation for a free dash into, you guessed it, more plus frames. And what you can do with those as Batman is a few things. Now if you remember, plus frames are essentially the number of frames you have to move before your opponent. 1-2 is +4 on block. After 1-2 on block you can follow up with back 1 for a low, or forward 3 for an overhead. Forward 3 is a little slow, and normally you'd be inclined to poke out. But remember, if you've got a mechanical bat, let that bad boy release if you want to catch them poking out, or you'll catch them with the overhead if they're asleep at their controller. You could also go for a different mix-up, try to get your jump 2 to cross up or not. You'll have to release your bat mid-jump to stuff any anti-airs, and you can see the whole releasing the bat to stuff this or that theme coming back. And that's basically what you want to do with the bats, condition them to not press buttons when they should, so you can keep your active bat for longer. Either way, having the bats out lets you loop the same mix-ups again and again, so long as you keep ending in these plus frames. Now Batman is also equipped with a series of strings that can create a frame trap and cancel it into the bats. So if you come in on your opponent without bats active, back 114 is -3, allowing you to do the same that you would with plus frames if your opponent is unaware. And turns out a lot of people are unaware of where Batman's gaps are. So good Batman pressure will look something like this. Here we have some mix-ups. Batman does have a low slide, which is punishable, but not when bats are out. When you have bats out, you can go for a raw slide, 1-1 into slide, or back 1-1 into slide. And you can get a full combo off the slide like this. The real mix-up Batman used to have would come off of his Jump 2 Vortex. A Vortex is a combo that can be looped continuously with the only chance for an opponent to escape being during a 50-50 restand. For a character to be able to perform a Vortex, they must have a move that can restand the opponent, a 50-50, and a move that can hit confirm into the restand. Batman had all of these, so I'll show you what his Vortex was. Off of the meter burn grapple, instead of going for raw damage, we would take a step back and do a deep Jump 2 for hit advantage. Then we follow up with a second Jump 2, this time coming over the opponent where we can choose to cross it up or not. If the Jump 2 is hit, we can hit confirm into a combo, back into the meter burn grapple, and start it all over again. If it's blocked, then we can confirm into 1-2 for plus frames and keep the pressure going. Dirty stuff. Which is why he was nerfed. Now his Vortex is a little bit different, a lot less broken. Off of the meter burn grapple, we can do a neutral Jump 2 into back 2, and from there we can finish back 2 into back 2-3 as our overhead option, or back 2 into the slide as the low option, both of which can be converted off of and are completely safe with 3 bats. Finally, in the corner, Batman really isn't that much different from mid-screen. The only problem is that, as the defender, you've got no real way out other than going through him. One trick to use in the corner, 1-1-2 into up Batarang, will create a plus on hit reset that serves the same purpose as back 1-1-4 or 1-2, just extra plus frames in your face. So there you have it, future Batman players. I hope this little section helped you out in getting started with how to play Batman. Now on the other hand, as the defender, we just went through an overload of options, so let's see what we can do on the defense. Combating Batman in the neutral is tricky. One thing is for certain though, go in on him when he has no mechanical bats. This is your opportunity to exploit his stubby normals. A good space control character with high mobility like Poison Ivy will destroy Batman when his trait is unavailable. If he's doing the lame man's way of escape spamming the Batarang, best way to counter this is to do a full screen move if your character has one. Contest him with a projectile as a zoner, using a dashing move like Sub-Zero's slide or Flash's Running Man stance, or using aerial projectiles. There are so many ways around this, it just depends on the character. Bottom line, in the neutral without trait, you want to harass Batman with long-range moves and get in as fast as possible. If he's dumb enough to waltz in on you without trait, hit him with a max-ranged footsie normal and punish him for it. Now taking advantage of his terrible neutral seems simple enough compared to blocking his hordes of pressure, so let's get into that. One tip I suggest you master when facing this character is being aware of his trait. How many bats does he have? How close is he to getting another? Let me elaborate. We see here that Batman does back 1-1-4 into back 2-3. He'll release his trait to try and catch you pushing buttons. Don't fall for this. Use some armor. Input meter burn back 3 when he comes dashing in after releasing the bats. Dashes have recovery frames too. This will punish him when he's getting too greedy. What if he's getting overconfident with the mix and you block a slide? he's got a bat and then releases it, making it to where you can't punish him. Wrong. Input a meter run back 3, absorb the bat, and punish him for his mistake. He'll be less inclined to try this twice, I assure you. Now this armor strategy doesn't really hold up when he has more than one bat out, which rarely happens when he's pressuring you. He's most likely going to have one. The only time he'll have more than one is if the match has just started or he's been sitting far away waiting for them to charge up. Mechanical bats also have virtually no block stun, so you can take advantage of something like this if you have a fast anti-air and you time it properly. Just remember, bats have a lot of hit stun, but no block stun. You can mash after getting hit with the bat and you'll likely interrupt him. Speaking of interrupt, it's more important to note that practically none of the things he does when he's pressuring you will jail. Jailing is a term that refers to when the opponent is stuck in enough block stun for you to carry one string into another with no gap. Let's say that 1-2 was plus 12 on block. Sounds obnoxious, right? Well, that would mean that he can jail into back 1. Back 1 starts off in 9 frames. Opponent is stuck in block stun for 12 frames, meaning that he can't press buttons for 12 frames, allowing your 9-frame move to connect with no chance of your opponent being able to move, attack, jump, or anything. This being said, none of his pressure jails, so there are gaps. Sometimes his gaps are tiny and you really have to mash a 6-frame move to trade with his next hit. Which, there's nothing wrong with mashing a button. Dragon, the E-League champion, even said that he mashes out of Batman pressure, because it works. So I'll show you some common pressure here and point out parts where you can indeed push a button. There is a gap after Batman cancels back 1-1 into his trade. It's -3 on block as I said before, so if he tries another 9-frame back 1, we theoretically have 12 frames we can slip in to interrupt him. You can mash down 1 if all you're looking for is to interrupt him, but it would be much more beneficial to cancel your down 1 into a combo starter if you're a character with a good down 1. If we use a 7-frame down 1, we get 5 frames of reaction time to press the button, which is still perfectly possible. This interrupt has to be done on a read though, because nobody can react between back 1-1 into trait or back 1-1-2, which will punish us if we try and push a button. So when you know for a fact Batman will try to do some sort of advantage on you, it's in your best interest to backdash. If he does 1-2 trait, reversal backdash after 1-2. If he does back 1-1 into trait, you can reversal backdash as an option select for back 1-1 into trait and back 1-1-2. Or if you're feeling yourself and you have your reads on point, you can poke him out of it. But a safer option is to always backdash after back 1-1 into trait or back 1-1-2. Be careful for when he attempts to bait the poke or the backdash. That's a very real capability he has. Releasing the bats after 1-2 will catch you for a full combo if you try and backdash afterwards. Back 1-1 slide will hit you if you try to poke, things like that. So don't poke or backdash every single time, because a good Batman will adapt. Of course, a lot of Batman players you'll find online are brain dead jump to button mashers, so you can probably do the same trick again and again with them. Final note, push block. Abuse the push block. Make push block your best friend. It resets a trait that has a 12-second cooldown, and it puts him at a distance where he can do literally nothing but jump in, the most predictable Batman maneuver. Nearly the entire cast beats Batman just outside of sweep range, which is exactly where a push block will put you. And that's all I have in regards to defending against him. Just don't be too afraid to push buttons when going up against Batman. Two Batman players that are very iconic in the scene and were both in E-League 2017 are Forever King and Nubcakes. I'd suggest you go watch those guys play Batman if you want to see how they deal with certain matchups. I'll post links in the description to some good matches to analyze for any future Batman players. So this here will be a little section that I have in all my character analysis videos where I do some basic bread and butter combos that the character has, as well as some basic conversions and stray hits you might find yourself with, and how to turn it into good damage. This channel is all about being practical and getting straight to the point. Only practical, meterless, and one-bar combos for you to use in your everyday match. Check out my tutorial where I discuss how to read combo notation if you're at all confused. So that's the end of my first video in this breakdown series. Please leave a comment if you have any suggestions on how I can make improvements, or you can leave a comment suggesting which character I do next. Hopefully we don't run into another video as long-winded as this one. I'll just chalk it up to the fact that Batman is very deep and there's a lot to cover. If there was any confusing terminology in this video, I'd like to refer back to my tutorial series that I made. Go watch those if you are at all confused. If you guys like what I'm doing here in this series, please spread the word. If you've learned something at all, or if I've made taking on Batman a little easier for you, please stay tuned for the next video in this series. Remember guys, there is no knowledge that is not power. So I'll see you in the next video where I'll be breaking down
Bane.